Hello, Kimberly Stratman here, to the Point Coach. Today we're going to talk about difficult conversations. And you might be surprised, but we're talking about difficult conversations that we have with ourselves, which means the conversations that I have with myself, the conversation that you have with yourself, or the conversations you should be having with yourself. As a retiree or somebody who's approaching retirement, or to be honest, a first responder who's ever going to leave their job voluntarily, you might as well be in control. And one of the ways to ensure the most control possible is to have conversations with yourself. I am sitting here looking over the notes from a class that I led last week to a group of first responders and their spouses on how to have difficult conversations. Now that class was how to have difficult conversations with somebody else, as in how do you have that conversation with somebody who's going to be the executor of your estate, or who's going to be in charge of your will, or who needs to know where you want to be buried and stuff like that. Well, the conversations that we're going to talk about today are the conversations we have with ourselves. And it isn't even so much just the conversation, but it's the questions that we ask ourselves and then how we listen to the answers, which is in fact the definition of a conversation. So let me tell you what we talked about last week about having conversations with other people, and then we're going to take that and put it on ourselves. So you want to be prepared. You want to make sure you're talking with the correct and appropriate person. You want to have the location and the time planned out, and you want to have a backup plan. Sounds very simple, right? But how many of us take the time to do that when we have very important decisions to make? How many times have we not shown the same respect to ourselves that we would show to somebody else that was important to us? How often have we not even put any thought or planning into a decision, or a lack of a decision, the outcome that's going to affect us potentially 10, 20, 30 or more years of our lives? We tend to do that. We tend to just willy-nilly go into retirement. It's got to happen. We've been saving our money. We're never going to have enough money. It'll just happen. I just don't want to go to work anymore. You know, those are some of the things that we hear from people when they're looking at retirement, and we can tell that when people answer questions like that, or when they express themselves that way, they haven't really asked themselves the right questions. They haven't had a productive conversation or conversations with themselves. So just on the basics, are you prepared? It's not a one-time thing. Conversations you're going to have the rest of your life. And that's something too that we can really look at, and we actually will discuss at a later time in a different podcast, different video. And that is what we are on the job isn't exactly what we're going to be after we retire. Now, if things don't matter to us now, they might not matter to us when we retire. If we don't enjoy, gardening, we might not enjoy gardening after we retire. But there are some things that will be different about us. We might not be as defensive. We might not be as on the edge as we are when we're on the job. There's a lot of us that we see ourselves as that patrol officer, the beat cop. And we've been that for a long, long time, even after we've promoted, even after we've left patrol, even after we've retired. We still see ourselves as that. But there are some windows of opportunity. There are some areas that we can grow. There are areas we can find more joy. There are ways that we can serve, continue to serve, or start to serve. Yes, even jaded, and even if we think we're ruined, we can still have awesome futures, way better than it was when we were on the job and we were on somebody else's schedule. But if that's what we want, and it's what I want, and I'm assuming that's what you want, if that's what we want, we do have to have the difficult conversations with ourselves. And I use the word difficult because sometimes we don't like the answers that we get from ourselves. Kind of funny. But guess what? We can keep asking the questions, and we can keep researching our answers, and we can keep going from there. So being prepared is not a one-time thing. We can grow and stretch, and heck, we can even go backwards a little bit if we want to. We can backtrack on our thoughts and reimagine things. So being prepared is kind of an ongoing thing. And are you speaking with the correct person? Well, you gotta hope that you're the right person who can make decisions about your retirement. But if you're not thinking about it and if you're not researching it, nah, who knows? I suggest that you be the right person. I suggest that you treat yourself with respect, you act like you care, and you really start thinking about it. Some other people that you can talk to is your spouse, people that know you well, people that you trust, people that you admire, people that are living the life that you want to live. You can go talk to them and then come back and have conversations with yourself. A location and a time. This is kind of funny because a lot of people think better at different times. You know, there's science that will tell you the human body thinks better between A and B time-wise. But you probably have a really good idea where you do your best thinking. It might be while you're running. It might be while you're walking the dog. It might be while you're driving. It might be while you're taking a shower. I mean, it could be anything. Know yourself and know whenever you have the best conversations with yourself. But don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to pick up a new habit, new hobby, and try asking yourself questions then. As you get more creative and as you do things that are different, you might spark different parts of your brain to think a little bit differently. And time, you know, some people do very well having conversations with themselves when they're very, very tired. It's probably not optimal, but why not try it and see how it goes? You can always have the same conversation again. And then have a backup plan. Basically by that, I mean, if you're not happy with the answers that you're getting when you ask yourself questions, if your conversations are not getting you any closer to any decisions, have a backup plan. Try it again, try it different. So now I want to take this a little bit more specific about retirement. And I want to stress this thought, please. And I'm going to stress this in every single conversation we ever have. And that is, it is not just about the money. It is not just about the money. Retirement is not just about the money. There are so many other things that come into retirement. Do we need the money? Hell yeah, you need the money. Do you need to be on a budget? Most likely so. But when we talk about retirement, we're talking about your lifestyle. We're talking about your hobbies. We're talking about, are you going to have another career? Is your marriage going to make it? Are you starting fresh? Are you moving? Are you going to get a new dog? Is your old dog almost about to leave you and you don't know what you're going to do? There's so many things to think about in retirement that has to do with your life, your living. What wakes you up in the morning? What gets you going? What's the last thing you think about before you go to bed? I hope it's not money. I hope it's not money. If it is money, you probably still need to keep working. Still need to, keep getting some income coming in. Doesn't mean you can't have these conversations with yourself. Doesn't mean you can't start thinking about yourself as a valuable part of your own life and thinking about what you're going to do when you do have more time on your hands. Now, some people say, this is a waste of time. I'm going to fish. This is a waste of time. I'm going to travel. This is a waste of time. I'm not doing anything. I'm going to garden. I mean, those are all luxurious ideas and wonderful ideas. And if that's really what you want and you've gotten your life lined up for that and you've asked yourself all the questions you need to ask yourself and it works out that way, fabulous, amazing. I love it. I'm so glad that you worked so hard and you can now live the life that you want to live the next 10, 20, 30 or plus years. But things don't always go like we think they're going to go. I have a coworker, retired before I did. He and his wife have a very successful cruise vacation company. And right when they opened their business and hit the ground running, pandemic hit. There was no traveling. They had 2 years of going. Well, I'm not even going to tell you what they said because you know what they said. So, they did everything, all their ducks in a row. They were ready to go. And then the shutdown happened, a little bit out of their control. Other people find out that as much as they like doing things, they don't want to do it all the time. I'm a perfect example for that. When I retired, I had a solid plan of what I wanted to do. I was very fortunate. I had been facilitating Dave Ramsey financial peace classes and Retire Inspired through Dave Ramsey, through the Dallas Police Department, to our church, to some other organizations for 7, 8, 9 years. Very fortunate to be able to have done that because it really got my brain working, and my husband and I had the conversations that we needed to have. One of the things that I was going to do when I retired is I wanted to work with plants. I love plants. I love gardening. I love landscaping. I love planning. I love planting plants. I love learning about plants. I love plants. I love all kinds of plants. I just love them. They make me very, very happy. I like to say that the plants are my therapy. So I got hired on part-time, basically 1 day a week, maybe 8 hours a week, working at a local upscale plant nursery. I loved it. I did it for about exactly 2 years, actually, 2 years. And during the busy season, which is about 5 or 6 weeks, I would work 2 days a week. And then during the summer, I was gone most of the summer because we go to our cabin up in the mountains. And it was a perfect part-time job. I mean, except for the fact they don't really pay you in retail. But I was around plants and I was around people who liked plants. So it was really, really good. But as I was doing this, I realized I want to be around plants on my time. I don't want to be around plants on somebody else, like when they tell me when to be there. And I don't want to necessarily work a register. I want to be with plants. With plants. And I also realized that I had other things that I wanted to do with my time instead of being at somebody else's shop. Great opportunity working there. It was an absolute blessing being able to work there. But I quit. Because I realized that as much as I wanted to be around plants, I wanted to be around plants on my terms. So thankful that I had that job, loved it, learned so much. Who knows, maybe someday I'll go back and do it some more. My point is, I didn't think that I would walk away from that great setup 2 years after I got it going. I really thought that it'd be something that I would do, until I was much older, way farther into my retirement. So that is something to think about. We have a lot of friends who really like to fish. They love to fish. But I only know one person who has turned it into a career or a moneymaker or a true hobby that they could do every day all throughout the year. And they live someplace where the weather provides for that and the economy provides for that. The other people that I know who like to fish really don't fish as much as I thought they were going to fish. Another example is working out. There's people who say, well, when I retire, I'm just going to work out every day. And instead of working out for an hour, I work out for 2 or 3 hours. And that's great. And some people, they do spice it up a little bit. They run, they cycle, they do weights, they do yoga, they do some additional classes. It gets kind of old after a while, though. They don't really want to still put 2 or 3 hours a day into their workouts. And so they kind of start backing off on that, and they start trying to think, how am I going to spend my time? So these are some difficult examples of difficult conversations that you need to have with yourself. You might really love something, but do you love it enough to do it as often as you think you're going to do it? So those of you who are still working, 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, and then you have your drive time and you're hooked to the phone, you're hooked to a computer, you're hooked to callbacks, strange schedules, court schedules, all the rest of that stuff, you might be thinking, hell yeah, that's all I want to do. Yes, I will never ever argue, and I will never ever try to convince you differently. I'm just trying to open your mind to think about it. I want you to have that conversation with yourself so you can decide if in fact working out 3 hours a day, 7 days a week is something that's going to be in your future. Fishing every single day, working with plants every single day, or even this conversation here that people have, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to be the boss of me, and I don't want a schedule. I ask that you talk to other people who have said that same thing. I highly recommend that you start researching that. Talk to people that you know. They don't have to all be retired first responders. They could be retired anything. Ask them about that and look at the quality of their life. look at their life from the outside looking in, and then actually ask them, say, hey, do you mind if I ask you, are you happy? Are you fulfilled? Oftentimes you're going to hear, I'm not. I feel like my life is flying by. I'm not accomplishing anything. I had no idea that I would feel this empty. Other people are so busy when they retire that they still don't feel like they're accomplishing anything. There's the old saying of, if you don't have work to go to, can you wait for the delivery guy? If you don't have a job to go to, can you go do this errand for me? Could you watch my dog? Could you do this? Could you do that? And so you find out that you have this huge full schedule, but you're not accomplishing anything for yourself. So one of the questions that's really good to ask yourself, one of those difficult conversations to have with yourself is, what am I doing tomorrow? What excites me? What do I look forward to doing tomorrow? When you're going to bed at night, ask yourself, what are my goals tomorrow? When you wake up in the morning time, go, what am I excited about? What am I excited about? What moves me? What gives me energy? What do I want to accomplish? Those are very good questions to ask yourself. Those are difficult conversations to have with yourself. I can't stress this enough. I just can't stress this enough. You could potentially have 10, 20, 30 or more years of life after you leave your job. We are retiring younger. We're also starting to retire a little bit more healthy than the first responders in the past. Still not looking great for us. We still got a lot of hurdles to clear. But if we can approach our retirement with the right frame of mind, feeling confident that we know how to ask ourselves these questions, we know how to clear our mind out so that we can listen to the answer, we can potentially have a higher quality retirement. And if we are emotionally and mentally ready to retire, if we are emotionally and mentally geared up for retirement, we really can thrive in this next part of our lives. So just really quick, difficult conversations. You are worth it. Be prepared. Keep preparing. Over-prepare, under-prepare. Prepare again. Never give up on yourself. Make sure that you are listening to yourself. Make sure you're asking yourself the right questions. Ask yourself the hard questions. Look around you. Look at other people. Look at other experts on the topic and see what they have to say. See how they're living, and then see how that comes back to you. And trust yourself. Trust yourself. If you've been a civil servant for a long time and you've always done what you were supposed to do and you've been serving others, now is time to start serving yourself. Now is time to start listening to yourself. The only way you can really listen to yourself and really have confidence in your answers is if you have the difficult conversations. Ask those difficult questions. It doesn't have to be miserable. There could be a lot of joy in this. But, it might also suck every now and then. But you are the only person who can make your retirement work for you. Nobody else can do it for you. And I'll be honest, you can't really blame anybody else for anything that goes wrong in your retirement. It's just how it is. It's on our shoulders. I kind of like that because I kind of like being the boss of me. I bet you like being the boss of you. So let's prepare for these conversations. Let's have these conversations. Let's listen to ourselves, and let's keep going so that we can thrive in our retirement. Kimberly Stratman, To The Point Coach. I am a retirement life coach. I help first responders retire where they can live the life they want to live. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.